Hello and welcome to this edition of News on the Hour. I'm Rukma with you, and over the next 60 minutes we'll be taking you through all the top stories from across India and the world, keeping the focus on Afghanistan, a country in turmoil after years and years of war within. Well, we'll have to wait and watch what happens in that situation with a head of state who just disappeared and a military that failed to rise up to protect its people. All that and more, news from sports, other updates, but first, the headlines. Prime Minister urges Olympians to spread awareness on importance of sports, health and fitness. From Churma discussion with Neeraj Chopra to ice cream promise to PV Sindhu. PM also boosts those who missed the medals. Afghanistan serving First Vice President Amrullah Saleh stakes claim to being caretaker president as per the country's constitution. United States and UK agree to hold G7 meet on the situation. EU says no work with Taliban unless human rights are respected. Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar in New York for UN Security Council meet discusses evolving Afghan situation with UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, scheduled to chair open debate on protecting the protectors, technology and peacekeeping. India's COVID fight goes strong. Percentage of active cases to total cases falls to lowest since March 2020. Cumulative vaccination coverage crosses landmark of 56 crore doses. And first batch of Indian Paralympic contingent leaves for Tokyo to take part in Paralympics 2020. Gold medalist at 2016 Rio Paralympics, Mariyappan Thangavelu is among the first batch of para-athletes. Welcome once again, and in our top story, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today fulfilled his promise to have ice cream with two-time Olympic medalist PV Sindhu and churma with India's first ever gold medalist in track and field, Neeraj Chopra. During his interaction with the Indian contingent of the Tokyo Games on Monday, the Prime Minister urged the athletes to reach out to the school and college students and make them aware of the need to have a balanced diet and ways to overcome the problem of malnutrition. In all, he stressed on ensuring good health and fitness. The Prime Minister appreciated Neeraj Chopra, saying that success does not get to your head and loss does not stay in the mind.
एकेडमी और स्पोर्ट्स स्कूल लगाने के लिए सोच रही थी, तो मुझे वाइजैक में लैंड दिया था, बट अभी तो खेल रही हूँ, बट बाद में ऑब्वियसली मेरा पापा सपोर्ट करेंगे, तो ही विल बी डूइंग द एकेडमी साइड. तो आफ्टर प्लेइंग
भाई पहले मुझे इसको आइसक्रीम खिलाना है, मैंने प्रॉमिस किया था उसको. सब बंद हो गया ना.
हाँ सर, अभी ओलंपिक्स टाइम पे ऑब्वियसली बंद हो गया, बट अभी थोड़े दिन से
सबको खिलाइए भाई. ये भी फिर डबल डबल मेडल लेके आएंगे.
सर वो मेरा कोच है सर, पार्क उनका नाम.
So you are from Korea?
Yes sir.
Wow.
South Korea sir. Namaste sir.
Ever you visited Ayodhya?
Yeah.
Ayodhya? You know anything about Ayodhya?
Did you visit?
There is a special relation with Korea and Ayodhya. And last time, the first lady, your president's wife, she came to
Yes.
she came to attend that function in Ayodhya.
Yeah.
She was a special guest. So you must visit Ayodhya and you must know what is the history about Ayodhya. And you will feel proud.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you. It's my honor, sir. Actually, yesterday I told phone call to my wife.
Oh.
So she tell me, I tell her, wife, tomorrow I gonna meet Prime Minister of India, so Narendra Modi Prime Minister. She say me, oh my God, crazy, sorry. It's your right to succeed. Yes.
कि विजय तुम्हारे सर पे नहीं चढ़ता है और दूसरा मैंने देखा है कि पराजय तुम्हारे मन में नहीं बैठता है। ये दोनों चीजें बहुत बड़ी है और ये मैं तुम्हें जब भी तुमसे बात किया है हर बार बड़ा बैलेंसिंग चीजें देखी है। कुछ तो होगा जी।
सर वो तो हमारा स्पोर्ट्स ऐसा है कि मतलब अपोनेंट पे निर्भर तो करता है, लेकिन हमें अपना बेस्ट देना होता है। मतलब हम फाइनल इकट्ठे खेलते हैं, 12 लोग होते हैं, लेकिन उन एथलीट्स के बीच में हमें अपने आप पे फोकस करना होता है, हमें बस अपना ही बेस्ट करना होता है। तो कोशिश यही करता हूँ कि दूसरे की परफॉर्मेंस की तरफ ध्यान ना देके या उसकी परफॉर्मेंस को देख के नर्वस ना होके अपनी परफॉर्मेंस कैसे बेटर करनी है उस पर फोकस करूँ।
अच्छा, ये चूरमा वूरमा खाया कि नहीं खाया?
खाया था सर, सोफा होटल में।
कब खाया अभी?
आते ही वहाँ से
और एक बार खड़ा होगा।
आप भी खाइए सर।
मेरा क्या होता है, मैं इस चातुर्मास सिर्फ एक टाइम खाना खाता हूँ।
थैंक यू सर।
तो मेरे लिए बड़ी नियमों का इतना बड़ा पाबंदी रखता हूँ मैं। भाई सबको खिलाइए। हाँ।
The Prime Minister also spoke with wrestler Vinesh Fogart, telling her and congratulating her for having played really well. He said that an athlete must always remain upbeat and never be demoralized.
और विनेश, ये तो मेरे ही परिवार की है। क्या बेटा, बहुत तुम गुस्सा आ गया तुम्हें, अपने आप पर गुस्सा क्यों करती हो? हैं? देखिए, तुमने बहुत अच्छा खेला है और तुम्हारे परिवार ने, पूरे परिवार ने बहुत कुछ अच्छा दिया है। विनेश निराश नहीं हो सकती, ये बात नहीं चलेगी। मैंने सुना तुम आने के बाद भी किसी को मिलती नहीं थी, ये क्या तरीका है?
सर, इतनी मेहनत के बाद जब मेडल नहीं आता तो दुख होता है काफी।
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं होता है। तो अरे खिलाड़ी की जिंदगी में हारना है तो बाएं हाथ का खेल होता है। वो हारने से कभी चिंता नहीं करता है।
हार एक्सेप्ट करने में थोड़ा सा टाइम लगता है सर मेरे को।
नहीं, बताए कि मन से निकालना चाहिए। और मैंने जो है अभी मैंने नीरज से एक बात कही, मेरा मत है कि जीत को कभी सर पे चढ़ने मत दो और हार को मन में बसने मत दो। ये मंत्र जीवन में बहुत जरूरी होते हैं। जो जीत में, उसके दिमाग में अगर जीत भर गई तो भी निकम्मा हो जाता है, और हार उसके मन में बस गई तो भी यही हाल होता है। तो विनेश, मैं पूरे परिवार को तुझे जानता हूं, तुम्हें निराश नहीं देख सकता हूं। वरना ऐसा करो, हफ्ते 10 दिन के बाद मम्मी बहनें सब मेरे यहाँ बैठूंगा, बैठ देगा आधे घंटे कौन लोग।
थैंक यू सर।
ये नहीं चलेगा।
आपने जो ये बात बोल दी है सर, मेरे ख्याल से सभी एथलीट उससे मोटिवेट होंगे जिनका मेडल नहीं आया है।
And joining us now is our correspondent Arun Sharma, who's been covering this story. Arun, well, a truly touching encounter, well, truly touching words from the Prime Minister, even as he spoke with our Olympians, and a wonderful moment for them and a clear message here to all countrymen.
Rukma, what better day it could have been, than this, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi actually interacts with Olympic player, and what more a sports person wants. The top leadership of the country personally knows you. The top leadership of the country has a personal touch and a personal rapport with the sports person of a country. Even if you're winning the medal for the country, even if you're not in a position to win the medal, no matter how you've performed in the Olympic Games, Prime Minister Narendra Modi knows, identifies each and every player. He knows about the personal taste, what is the liking of the players, disliking of the player, how to motivate the players. This is what Prime Minister Narendra Modi knows, and that's the reason we can say that now sports culture is all set to achieve new heights in our country. Now, when we look at this interaction, Rukma, be it Neeraj Chopra, Vinesh Phogat, Bajrang Punia for that matter, Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with all the players. Even he interacted with Mary Kom. Some of the players were disheartened as they could not get medal for the country. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi clearly mentioned this point that winning and losing are part of life. Losing should not be taken with as other way. It should be considered as a motivating factor. You should work hard, and you should ensure that by working hard, how you can achieve your goals, because winning and losing are part of life. The way you display your game, the way you play on international arena, the way you play on global platform, that actually matters. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacting with each and every player. And if you look at it this way, Rukma, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was curious about the way they performed. He also asked Neeraj Chopra that how, in his second attempt, he was so confident, he was so sure that he's going to win. So Neeraj Chopra clearly explaining to him that it is because of our training, our hard work, we could do that. Prime Minister also ensured that point. He told Neeraj Chopra that you are a special person, because you don't get excited, you don't get too much excited when you win any match, and you don't take the defeat too seriously. So that's the reason you maintain equilibrium in your life, and that's the reason you have come with this gold medal. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi clearly ensuring some of the informal talks as well. Prime Minister on the other side also motivating the players. Prime Minister on the other side giving the mantra of success. Prime Minister on the other side also giving a vision to the sports player that even if you could not win the medals this time, focus on the next big events, focus as to what more can be done. Second important aspect, Rukma, is that Prime Minister also asking the coaches of the Indian team, he was also asking the players, various athletes and players, that what best practices are being adopted in other countries. Why is that in some of the events whereby we have finished 4th number or 5th number, how could we convert this 4th and 5th number to 1st, 2nd and 3rd positions? What more can be done? What new techniques can be adopted? What is the best practices that is being there in other countries whereby they could win the medals? And what best practices can be brought into the country like India? So all this Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacting with the players, sharing some personal space, and of course sharing some personal time with these players. And sports persons were really happy when they interacted, because they all mentioned one point, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi knows each and every player. He was watching all the game, and he was motivating and inspiring all the time. Even when women's hockey team lost some of the matches, even men's hockey team, when they lost some of the matches in early events, at that time also he ensured he called up the men's hockey team as well. And after that we saw that how the men's hockey team got a medal for us. So this is a motivating factor that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is doing, and yes, this interaction will ensure that the sports culture in our country get a major push in our country.
Right, Arun, he's also promised to keep his promise to PV Sindhu to treat her to ice cream, and also to have churma with Neeraj Chopra. So the personal touch there.
And whatever he promises, he ensures that he fulfills. I mean, those were some of the happy moments. I mean, what more you expect? Now also Bhavani Devi, if you look at this entire interaction, Bhavani Devi said that her mother primarily is an inspiration factor, and it is because she sacrificed her career, her life, and that's the reason why Bhavani Devi could perform well in the Olympic Games. She could come on this international level. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also mentioned Bhavani Devi's mother's sacrifices for her in his Mann Ki Baat address as well. That is what Bhavani Devi also mentioned. And of course PV Sindhu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, I mean, the event is that, when PV Sindhu was going for Olympic, at that time she brought a racket for Prime Minister, and she also got an autograph also from Prime Minister Narendra Modi on her racket. And PV Sindhu said, I will not have ice creams. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi, at that time promised that you come back from Olympics and we'll have ice cream together. So that's the reason when PV Sindhu returned back with a medal. Prime Minister Narendra Modi clearly said that ab mujhe aapko ice cream खिलानी पड़ेगी, मैंने आपको promise किया था. I promised you that I'll get you an ice cream for that, and that's what Prime Minister Narendra Modi fulfilling. And of course the churma. There are a lot of churmas, Haryanavi churma, Rajasthani churma. So Prime Minister said that to Neeraj Chopra that come, let's have churma, because churma is something that you like very much, and that's what we have seen. So yes, whatever promises that were done by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he is fulfilling that promises. And this kind of personal chemistry with the players also gives confidence. It boosts the morale of the players as well. As top leadership of the country is having some personal time with you, sparing some time with you, be it the ice cream with PV Sindhu, or be it churma with Neeraj Chopra, or be it mentioning the sacrifices of the parents of various athletes, and telling them that give my regards to your parents. I mean, Prime Minister Narendra Modi telling all the players primarily that give my regards to your parents, and also ensuring. I mean, he also inquired about the health of Lovelina. Now, Lovelina's mother's kidney transplant took place recently. There was some kidney problem with her mother now, but now she's fine. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi also interacting with Lovelina. He said that, Lovelina, how's your mother? Did you meet your mother or not? So Lovelina also telling about it. So all these players were happy and excited because Prime Minister is not only giving emphasis on the players, but also asking and inquiring about the well-being of the parents of these sports persons. So this is really a morale booster for such a sports person, and that's the reason when such when such leadership is standing just behind you, you get primarily a great morale booster as far as performances are concerned. And yes, when in next events we can expect more medals as well, because the sports players' morale, the confidence is at the great heights as of now.
Right, boosting the morale as well as we can expectations of more medals from the sports, from the Olympians who went this time itself. Also, as you mentioned earlier, a sports culture, the Prime Minister discussing on health and fitness. It sends a message to even ordinary men and women who may have never seen a stadium.
That's right. So many of the players, suggested also something to Prime Minister Narendra Modi that what more needs to be done. They were, while this informal interaction, Prime Minister Narendra Modi asked about, various games and disciplines, and he asked that what more can be done in this game or in this specific discipline, so that we can create a proper sports culture or an ecosystem primarily, so that players get, a proper infrastructure, they get good techniques, they get good coaches in our country. And how can primarily right from the beginning, that means when a child during the age of 5 to 7 years of age, how can proper sports training can be done? Various sports person, various athletes, when they interacted with Prime Minister, they came out with suggestions, the idea that what more needs to be done. That's number 1 point. Number 2, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is very much keen on the best practices that is prevailing in on an international arena. So he also inquired from various coaches. Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with PV Sindhu's coach also, a Park. And also, when we talk about various other coaches like men's hockey team coach, he also interacted with them. So the basic thing he wanted to know that in positions, they were various disciplines whereby we finished 4th, number 5th, and number 6th. Women's hockey for that matter. We last Olympics we finished at 12th position. There were 12 teams participating. We were at 12th number. This time around in 2021, we finished at 4th number. But how can this number 4 position, number 5 position, this can be converted to number 1, number 2, number 3 position? How were the teams that were playing, be it Korea, be it Japan, be it US, be it China for that matter? How are the players of these teams, are a notch ahead of us at what India can do? What players can do, how better ecosystem can be provided as far as coaches are concerned, the techniques are concerned, the sports infrastructure is concerned, what more needs to be done? How can there be a better coordination? How can there be an integrated approach between coaches, player, associations and federations of the sports of our country? So how can there be an integration and of course an integrated approach can be there as far as these stakeholders are concerned? So Prime Minister Narendra Modi inquiring and asking about everything. He was so curious that he also asked that what are the best practices? How can we convert this 4th and 5th position to 1 and 2nd and 3rd position? So this was his curiosity, and he tried to know from each and every player, how were you feeling when you got a medal? Now he also, there was an informal chat with Ravi Dahiya also. He clearly mentioned Ravi Dahiya that, Ravi, I know that you wanted to win gold. You finished on 2nd position. You got a silver. Silver is also a big thing. But why don't you smile? Just keep on smiling, because there's no need to dishearten even if you could not get gold. But the way Ravi Dahiya played on an international arena, the opponent continuously was biting Ravi Daya, but despite that, he did not leave the opponent, and of course, he was playing at that point in time, and he got a silver. So Ravi Daya also sharing his experience that what was in his mind when, in seconds of the game, he completely changed the game and he won the silver medal for our country. So yes, these were some of the personal moments. With this informal talk, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's message was very much clear that he wanted to know more and more about the sports player. He wanted to know more and more about what can be done by the government, by the associations, by the federations, what best practices can be brought into a country like India. So this was a clear indication message from this informal chat that Prime Minister Narendra Modi wanted to ensure that how can this soft power of our country, how can we get more and more the medals primarily on this international platform and international events. So this was the basic idea of this informal chat that Prime Minister had with the Olympic players.
Right, Arun. Well, many thanks for joining us there. So a message for health, a message for fitness there. Also a huge morale booster. Our Olympians, a moment that perhaps they will never forget in their lives. Well, it's time now for a short break, but we'll be right back. There's more on the other side and news on the hour here on DD India. Stay tuned.
नमस्ते लैंड
मरहबन इलल हिंद
जरी इंडिया
सलाम इंडिया नमस्ते इंडिया
नमस्कार भारत
मुई इंडिया
नहनु हुनूरा इंडिया माँ हिंदी हस्ती हिंदियान
सलाम हिंदुस्तान
वी आर इंडिया
Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in all Southeast Asian countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching News on the Hour here on DD India, and now let's move on to our next section on updates from Afghanistan. The country's serving first Vice President Amrullah Saleh has taken claim to becoming the caretaker president as per the country's constitution, he says. Citing the provisions of the Constitution of Afghanistan, Saleh says the first vice president automatically becomes the caretaker president in the event of the president's absence, escape or resignation. Saleh has not accepted the takeover by the Taliban, saying he will never be under one ceiling with the Islamist fundamentalists. Earlier, he called on anti-Taliban groups to join the resistance, saying they have not lost spirit unlike the United States and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Responding to Vice President Amrullah Saleh's appeal for support, a commando of Homeland Security under the Ministry of Defense, Sarfaraz, said he and his team will do whatever needed. Taking to his official Twitter handle, he pointed out that he had a detailed discussion with his teammates, after which they have concluded that they would be joining Amrullah Saleh, who he referred to as the former Vice President and present President of Afghanistan in the country's Panjshir district. And in an attempt to establish some semblance of governance, the Taliban on Tuesday declared a general amnesty for all government officials, urging them to return to work 2 days after taking power following a lightning sweep through the country. A statement from the Taliban said a general amnesty has been declared for all, so you should start your routine life with full confidence. Meanwhile, armed Taliban soldiers stationed themselves at checkpoints in Kabul ready to question residents in the Afghan capital as they returned to work on Tuesday. Some residents are happy that the Taliban has changed, unlike the older ones who stopped women from working and administered punishments. However, many Afghans are skeptical despite the Taliban pledging there will be no retribution against opponents and promise to respect the rights of women, minorities and foreigners. And as Afghanistan remains in a state of flux, the United Nations Human Rights Council will hold a special session next week on the situation there to address serious human rights concerns after the Taliban takeover. A United Nations statement said yesterday that the Geneva Forum is set to convene on the 24th of this month at the request of nearly 90 other countries supporting the move. Convening a special session requires support from 1/3 of the Council's 47 member states. A provisional UN list showed backers so far include members Britain and France, but not China or Russia, while the United States was not among supporting countries with observer status. Meanwhile, the European Union says it will have to engage with the Taliban to provide support to the Afghan people, even if it does not recognize the Taliban as the legitimate rulers of the country. Speaking after an emergency meeting of the European Union foreign ministers, EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell said starting a dialogue soon was necessary to prevent a potential migratory disaster and a humanitarian crisis. Borrell added the EU's priority was to evacuate EU staff and Afghan helpers from Kabul. He put the number of locals who have been working for the EU at almost 400, their families included.
We'll have to get in touch with the authorities in Kabul. The authorities in Kabul, wherever they are. The Taliban have won the war. So we will have to talk with them in order to engage in a dialogue as soon as necessary to prevent a humanitarian and a potential migratory disaster, but also a humanitarian crisis. I haven't said that we are going to accept the Taliban whatever they do. They said that we will put conditions for continuing our support, and we are going to use our leverage, all our leverage, in order to make the human rights to be respected.
The Taliban has meanwhile told the United States it will provide safe passage for civilians to reach the airport in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has said the United States believes the Kabul evacuation can go until August 31st, and it is talking to the Taliban about the exact timetable. Thousands of U.S. troops have been flown into Kabul to assist in evacuation efforts after the collapse of Afghanistan's military and government amidst swift advances by Taliban forces.
We gave 20 years of American blood, treasure, sweat, and tears in Afghanistan. We gave them every capacity in terms of training and equipment to stand up and fight for themselves. And at some point, it was the time for the United States to say that the Afghan people had to stand up for themselves. I want to be very clear about what our position is. Our position is that we are going to have to deal with the potential threat of terrorism from Afghanistan going forward, just as we have to deal with the potential threat of terrorism in dozens of countries in multiple continents around the world.
Meanwhile, the United States has completed a drawdown of embassy personnel from Kabul, and the diplomatic staff remaining are assisting the evacuation of American citizens and Afghan allies. State Department spokesman Ned Price has said U.S. forces took charge of the airport on Sunday as Taliban militants wound up a week of rapid advances by taking over Kabul without a fight. He added that the United States would also evacuate as many Afghans as possible who had helped during its 20-year war in the country.
hand in glove with military colleagues to help load planes safely and securely and as fast as possible. We've now completed our drawdown to the core diplomatic presence we need, and at this time, we will no longer need to facilitate departures for our embassy personnel. All remaining embassy staff will be assisting departures from Afghanistan, and the department is surging resources and consular affairs personnel to augment the relocation of American citizens and Afghan special immigrants and elsewhere, adding personnel to assist with P1, P2 adjudication processing. Right now, we are thinking about this in terms of August 31st. If it is safe and responsible for us to potentially stay longer, that is something that we may be able to look at.
People fleeing the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan arrived in the UK late on Tuesday evening, following Britain's announcement that it plans to welcome thousands of Afghans. As per the UK government's promise to resettle thousands of Afghan refugees, over 20,000 Afghans have been offered a route to set up home in the UK in the coming years. In the first year, 5,000 refugees will be eligible, with women, girls and others in need having priority. The new plan is on top of the existing scheme for interpreters and other staff who worked for the UK. Germany, meanwhile, is also working to get as many people as possible out of Afghanistan quickly. In the series, a Bundeswehr plane carrying around 100 evacuees, including women and children from Kabul, landed in Tashkent on Tuesday. Many more are being and will be evacuated in the future. Germany has deployed 600 soldiers for the purpose of evacuation. A video, which we will be showing you next, shows a group of Afghan women protesting for their rights in the streets of Kabul as armed men stand nearby. Reportedly the first women's protest since the Taliban took over. It shows 4 women holding up signs and shouting slogans in the streets of Kabul. The camera pans to show a man with a rifle walking near the women, as well as other armed men standing in the back of a pickup truck parked nearby. Though the Taliban reportedly wants women to join their new government and has promised that women would be afforded some rights, most are skeptical of the militant group given its history of brutal oppression. And here we slip into another very short break, but there's more news up ahead, so keep watching.
With the world's largest COVID vaccination drive, India is leading the way. As the vaccine reaches every corner of the nation, do not forget the mantra, DAWAI bhi, KADAI bhi. Let's continue our fight against COVID-19. Vaccination along with social distancing, sanitization and masks.
Mask up, India!
Put your mask on and cover your nose and be safe.
Mask up, India. As the day unfolds and news and events take shape, we get you complete coverage of every news breaking in, tracking new developments as they happen. Midday Prime English, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching News on the Hour. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is on a visit to the United States currently, will today chair an open debate on protecting the protectors, technology and peacekeeping. The debate on peacekeeping will focus on the theme of protecting the protectors, including through the use of modern technological tools to enhance the safety and security of peacekeepers and to aid peacekeeping missions. India, in collaboration with the UN, will be rolling out the Unite Aware platform, which is a situational Awareness software program that allows a peacekeeping operations center to visualize and analyze the ground situation in a conflict zone on a real-time basis. An MOU between India and the UN in support to the Partnership for Technology and Peacekeeping initiative is expected to be signed during the visit. The External Affairs Minister will also preside over a briefing session on Thursday on threats to international peace and security caused by terrorist acts. Dr. Jayashankar's visit to New York comes during India's presidency of the United Nations Security Council. During the visit, Dr. Jayashankar will also have bilateral meetings with foreign ministers of other member states on the sidelines of these UN Security Council high-level events. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jayashankar on Tuesday held discussions with UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Afghanistan. Dr. Jayashankar tweeted, "Good to meet UN Secretary General. Our discussions focused on Afghanistan following upon the Security Council meeting." The External Affairs Minister also met Foreign Minister of Estonia on Tuesday. Dr. Jayashankar in a tweet said, "As UN Security Council members discussed our working together on maritime and cyber security and other global issues, exchanged views on the developments in Afghanistan." An update now on our nationwide vaccination drive. In a landmark milestone, India's COVID-19 vaccination coverage has crossed the 56 crore landmark. A total of 56 crore 6,52,030 vaccine doses have been administered across India so far, with over 55 lakh vaccine doses having been administered in the past 24 hours. India is continuing the fight against COVID-19. With timely tracing, testing and treating, we have been containing the spread of the virus greatly. In the past 24 hours itself, we reported 35,178 new cases of COVID. Currently, there are 3,67,417 active cases of COVID. This is the lowest in 148 days. Active cases have been the lowest since March last and now constitute 1.14% of total cases. Meanwhile, recovery rate is the highest since March and is now at 97.52%. In the last 24 hours, 37,169 patients have recovered from COVID so far. A total of 3,14,85,923 patients have recouped from COVID. The weekly positivity rate is less than 3% for the last 54 days and is currently at 1.95%. Daily positivity rate is below 3% for the past 23 days and is now at 1.96%. And testing capacity too has been soundly ramped up, with over 49 crore 84 lakh tests conducted so far. The Uttarakhand government has extended the ongoing COVID curfew by another week till the 24th of August. And the government has issued a fresh standard operating procedure that exempts people who have received both doses of the vaccine 15 days before their arrival in the state from showing a negative test report. The fresh SOP says that hotels, restaurants and dhabas will operate with 50% capacity for now. All industries in both urban and rural areas will operate with strict adherence. Meanwhile, schools from Standard 6th have been reopened in the state amid COVID protocols. The Assam government has meanwhile allowed inter-district movement of private vehicles and movement of people except to and from Kamrup district due to improvement in the COVID-19 situation. However, movement of inter-district public transport will remain suspended. Meanwhile, night curfew will be imposed at 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. across the state. Physical classes in respect of final year of graduate, postgraduate, engineering and medical colleges among others may be allowed to be started with fully vaccinated students. Following an improvement in the COVID situation, the Belur Math, the headquarters of the Ramakrishna Mission in West Bengal, opened its doors to devotees and visitors. The Math will remain open from 8 to 11 a.m. in the morning and 4 to 5:45 p.m. in the evening. Visitors entering need to produce a photocopy of COVID vaccination certificate, of 2 doses of COVID negative certificate of the test conducted within the last 72 hours, along with identity cards such as Aadhaar, PAN or voter card. They have to follow all the COVID guidelines inside the premises. However, visits to the old shrine and Swami Vivekananda's room and prasad distribution will remain suspended. Bathing in the Ganges is also not permitted. Ramakrishna Museum will also remain closed. The Belur Math has remained closed to devotees since the 24th of March last year due to the COVID pandemic. However, it was open for a day on the 24th of last month on the occasion of Guru Purnima. Continuing with a series of steps towards cooperation with neighboring countries in fighting COVID, India handed over 31 life support ambulances to Bangladesh in Dhaka on Tuesday. High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh, Vikram Doraiswamy, formally handed over these ambulances equipped with advanced life support systems to Bangladesh Foreign Minister Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen at a program held in Dhaka. India also handed over medical equipment and supplies like pulse oximeter devices, liquid medical oxygen cylinders, nasal cannulas, oxygen nasal cannulas, oxygen concentrators, among others. These ambulances are part of 109 life support ambulances gifted to Bangladesh during the visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in March this year. The remaining ambulances will also be handed over soon to Bangladesh. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern put the nation under strict lockdown on Tuesday after one new case of coronavirus was reported in its largest city of Auckland, the country's first in 6 months. All of New Zealand will be in lockdown for 3 days from Wednesday, while Auckland and Coromandel, a coastal town that the infected person had also spent time in, will be in lockdown for 7 days. Imposing its toughest level 4 lockdown rules, schools, offices and all businesses will be shut down and only essential services will be operational. The last reported community case of COVID in New Zealand was in February this year. New Zealand has overall reported nearly 2,500 confirmed corona cases and 26 related deaths.
Level 4 will be for an initial period of 3 days, except for Auckland and the Coromandel Peninsula, who we anticipate will likely be at level 4 for 7 days, due to them being most closely linked to our current case. Over this time, we will be looking for testing results from people from locations of interest, wastewater testing, and general community testing of those with cold and flu symptoms elsewhere in the country. We have made decisions on the basis that it is better to start high and go down levels, rather than start too low, not contain the virus, and see it move quickly.
Japan on Tuesday extended its state of emergency in Tokyo and other regions, announcing new measures covering 7 more prefectures to combat a spike in COVID infections. The current state of emergency, the 5th of the pandemic so far, was due to expire on the 31st of August, but will now continue till the 12th of September. Tokyo reported 4,377 new COVID-19 cases on Tuesday, after a record 5,773 on Friday. The emergency will now cover nearly 60% of Japan's population. Less strict quasi-emergency measures will be applied to 10 prefectures. Restaurants have been asked to close early and stop serving alcohol in exchange for a subsidy. And a look now at COVID numbers from across the world, which continues to battle the virus with all its might. So far, over 20 crore 93 lakh people have been infected, with more than 18 crore 76 lakh patients having recovered. The deadly virus has claimed the lives of over 43 lakh 94,000 people across the world. The United States has been seeing a surge in new daily cases of COVID, reporting more than 3 crore 78 lakh cases so far, while deaths related to the virus have surpassed 6 lakh 40,000. And here it's time for another very short break. More up ahead. Stay tuned and keep watching DD India.
Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in Middle East countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now.
And in some more international news, in Jerusalem, planes and firefighting crews on Tuesday battled a wildfire in the wooded hills outside the country to keep them away from a hospital. The blaze, some 10 kilometers west of Jerusalem, sent clouds of smoke billowing east, but there appeared to be little danger the fire would reach the city. No serious injuries have been reported so far. Israel's Fire and Rescue Authorities say 45 crews and 8 planes were fighting the blaze, which the country's internal security minister says burned around 17,000 hectares on Sunday, forcing hundreds to evacuate. Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett toured the area by helicopter on Tuesday to check the wildfire situation. The Fire and Rescue Authority said an investigation has been launched into the cause of the fire. In Bolivia, San Matias, the sky turned red due to burning wildfires in the region. Firefighters have been struggling to bring the blaze under control. According to Bolivia's Friends of Nature Foundation, FAN, over 24,000 hectares of forest have burned in the country so far this year. The mayor of San Matias has declared fire-ravaged areas a disaster zone. Meanwhile, locals fear that if these fires are not contained, they could impact the country's food supply. News now from the business world. Wall Street's main indices slid on Tuesday, weighed down by a drop in US retail sales as well as by disappointing results from Home Depot. Almost all of the S&P 500 sectors were lower, with consumer discretionary the weakest performer. All three major US indices ended well lower after the S&P 500 and the Dow Industrial had previously closed at record highs for 5 straight sessions. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 279.68 points or 0.79% to 35,345.72. The S&P 500 lost 31.37 points or 0.70% to 4,448.34, and the Nasdaq Composite dropped 137.58 points or 0.93% to 14,656.18. Asian share markets recouped from the early losses today, trading mostly higher after Wall Street shares slipped and with Japan struggling to control a surge in virus cases. The Hang Seng is up 0.7%, while the Shanghai Composite is trading higher by 0.6%. The Nikkei is up 0.8%. Back home, domestic benchmark indices BSE Sensex and Nifty 50 scaled fresh all-time highs this morning. S&P BSE Sensex started trading above 56,000 for the first time ever, while the NSE Nifty 50 was nearing 16,700. HDFC Bank was the top gainer in the Sensex pack, rising over 2%. On the other hand, IndusInd Bank, Kotak Bank, Bajaj Auto and Infosys were among the laggards. Some sports news now. After a remarkable feat of the Indian contingent at the Summer Games, the Paralympics 2020 Indian contingent will also be expected and hopefully repeat the success as they depart for Tokyo from Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport. They departed early this morning with 54 of our athletes competing across 9 sports. Our para-athletes will participate in archery, para-canoeing, athletics, shooting, table tennis, swimming, badminton, powerlifting and taekwondo. The Tokyo Paralympics opening ceremony will take place on Tuesday, August the 24th, with Rio Olympics gold medalist high jumper Mariyappan Thangavelu named the flag bearer. During his interaction with the Indian contingent of Tokyo Olympics 2020 on Monday, Prime Minister urged athletes to reach out to students of schools and colleges and create awareness for a balanced diet as well as ways to overcome malnutrition. In all, he stressed on ensuring good health and fitness.
एक लेक्चर पोषण के संबंध में, न्यूट्रिशन वैल्यू के संबंध में, क्योंकि खिलाड़ी के जीवन में वो बहुत बड़ा होता है, विकास के लिए भी जुड़ा। तो आज आप हैरान हो जाएंगे, हमारी जो बच्चियां हैं वो 13, 14, 15 साल में ऐसी एनेमिक कंडीशन में होती है कभी कभी, और 5 साल 10 साल के बाद जब वो मां बनेगी तो बच्चा स्वस्थ पैदा ही नहीं हो सकता। और जिस देश का बचपन स्वस्थ ना हो वो देश भी कभी स्वस्थ नहीं हो सकता। और एक बहुत बड़ा सामाजिक काम मैं आपको इसलिए कह रहा हूं, स्पोर्ट्स पर्सन जब कहता है तो इस विषय में वो विश्वास करता है, हाँ यार देखिए यहां तक पहुंचा तो खाने में उसने नियमों का पालन किया। तो मैं आपसे एक अपेक्षा करता हूं कि आप एक तो खुद कॉलेज के बच्चों से मिले तो क्या बोलना, स्कूल के बच्चों से मिले तो क्या बताना, प्राइमरी बच्चों से मिले, ऐसे 3-4 विषय तैयार करके ऑनलाइन सब अवेलेबल होता है। मैं भी आपको नोट भेज दे, डिपार्टमेंट ऐसी व्यवस्था करूंगा, लेकिन आप एक लेक्चर तैयार कीजिए और उनको समझाइए, और मैं समझता हूं कि एक बहुत बड़ी सेवा है।
And Odisha government has extended its sponsorship of the Indian national hockey teams by another 10 years. Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik announced this at a special function held to felicitate Olympians of the national men's and women's hockey teams in capital Bhubaneswar on Tuesday. He also awarded 10 lakh rupees to each player and 5 lakh rupees to each support staff, besides 13 other awards in recognition of the historic win at the Tokyo Games. And well, that brings us to the end of this edition of News on the Hour. We hope you enjoyed our show. News and updates continue. But as we go, today we leave you with glimpses of shapes, letters and faces carved into the waste rubber soles by an ivory Painter Aristide Kwame. His material choice is both artistic and economic and can be an example to all. Take a look and enjoy. Namaskar. Have a great day.